Hey y'all, thanks for tuning in to another video. If you didn't listen to the Peace Podcast this Monday, it was a really great episode about taking inventory at the end of a year so that you can walk into the next year with all of the things that you know that you need to alter or keep, all of those things that you know that you need to abandon, and all of those things that you know that they might be serving you, but they're not really getting you to God's purpose, and thinking about those as well and what we might need to do with those, and then holding on to the good things, the things that you know that you did really well and that you want to take into the next phase to get you to your next. In that video, I talked about how we need to put things into buckets. So we have this internal bucket, this external bucket, and then in this circumstantial bucket when we're taking inventory. So we think about when a retail store takes inventory and they think about the things that internally inside of the store went really well or didn't sell very well. They think about the external influences. What are people actually buying now that they may not actually have in the store anymore? What's the supply and demand look like? And then they take inventory of those circumstantial things. Is the price of groceries so outlandish that maybe this thing really isn't a thing that people want to splurge on, right? And so we have to do that same thing for our lives, because when we walk into the next phase, if we want to level up, we can't keep sitting in the same place that we're in. If we want change, then we have to change. And so I really want to talk about that internal bucket in this video, because the internal bucket is the one that I think is maybe the most difficult to go through the process of, because it's all on you. It's all in you. And so when we think about that internal bucket, it is everything that is happening inside of your mind, inside of your heart, and inside of your soul. And it isn't until you get real with yourself, resonate with what's actually happening, think about what you've done to make it so, and what you've allowed, and what you're no longer willing to accept. That's the biggest part of taking inventory. It really is this two-part thing. It's being able to love yourself enough to see the good in the things that you've done. I talk about this fika, which is that pause moment. It's a Swedish word that means to just pause and be able to look at and appreciate the good things, right? And so you have to be able to do that for yourself, which requires some self-love, because sometimes we're so down on ourselves because we're so used to everyone else being that way with us that it's hard for us to see the good in what we've done. But you got to take time to stop and think about that, because it really helps you to determine what's going on in your brain. You have to think about what's going on in your heart. Has your heart been hardened? Is it broken and need to be put back together? All of those things are important in going into your next, because you can't go there with a hardened heart. You have to go into a space where you want abundance. Requires you to be open to receive that abundance. If your brain and your mind are closed off to the things from the outside world because you're protecting yourself, then you're not open for abundance. If your heart is hardened because you've been hurt too many times and you're trying to protect yourself, then you're not open for abundance. And the last one is your soul. If you have closed off all of the pieces of your soul to protect yourself because you don't feel like God has really been supporting you, you don't really feel like your soul is really in alignment with who you are, then you're going to walk into the space and do the exact same things that you've done before and hope for different results because the year is new. That one change of a number isn't going to change anything until you change. And so when we're taking that internal inventory, we have to start with our mind. What is up with your thinking? Are you ruminating on negative thoughts? And if you are, is there a solution to that thing? Because if there's not, then it probably means you need to get rid of that thinking, and you need to get rid of the thing that's causing you to continue to ruminate over that thinking. If it's in alignment with you, it'll cause you to think a lot about the thing, like things that excite you and make your spirit leap. You're gonna think about those things often. But are you going to ruminate on them? Are you going to overthink? Are you going to spiral? No, because that piece of your mind should be dedicated to forward motion. But if you're so stuck in the past and the things that have happened in the past that you can't accept and value the present or be excited for the future, then that's telling you something. It's telling you that your way of thinking and your thoughts and your mind are going in the wrong direction. If you want to keep going backward and staying there, then keep thinking about what happened in the past and stay there. But if you're ready for your next and you want to be well more than you want anything else, you'll let go of all of that hurt and pain that happened in the past so that your brain can be freed up to take you to the next space and phase of your life. Your mind only has so much capacity. And if you're spending 90% of it ruminating and spiraling on these thoughts from the past, you're running on a hamster wheel. Because one thing I can tell you that you can't do is go back there and rewrite it. You know, someone told me once that we choose partners who are similar to the people who hurt us in our past so that we can rewrite the narrative, so that we can give it another chance to end a different way. And while that may be true, it doesn't have to be your story, because you can't go back in the past. You can't redo, and you can't rewrite that narrative. Those things are all true. But what you can do is take the lesson from the past, really sit with what it helped you learn, and go into your future with that wisdom, because that wisdom is going to help you navigate what's in your next. It is not going to make you well to spend 90% of your brain's capacity ruminating on something that you can't change, because your brain is solution-based. It wants to find the solution. There's no solution to what happened in the past. The solution is to decide what is in alignment with you now and how your future might exist if it is, and how your present situations, behaviors, and circumstances can be navigated in order to get you there. The second part of this is to really take inventory of your heart. If you are still holding on to resentment, hurt, bitterness from something that happened to you in the past, then your heart is going to be hardened or broken. If your heart is hardened, you're not going to let anything in. It doesn't matter if it's a person, it doesn't matter if it's an experience. Your heart is not going to be able to experience true love if you don't let anything into it. If you're so fearful that it's going to get hurt again, that you just make it so hard that that can't happen. So you have to sit with yourself and say, the only way to protect myself from this again is to resolve with my brain that I'm not going to do those actions and behaviors again. To resolve with my brain that I'm willing to listen to my intuition and make the steps that it takes to not do whatever it is that I've allowed to harden my heart. A hardened heart cannot let anything that is loving into it. It's too hard to do so. It has to be soft. It has to be open. And if you're not open to alignment, then you're not open to your next. If it's a broken heart, then you're going to be sitting there with this heart that's wide open, but doesn't have all the pieces to allow true alignment in. In fact, you're going to be having an expectation that someone else is going to bring the pieces and the tools and the glue to put it all back together for you. But that's no one else's job, it's yours. And yes, someone can come in and be loving to you, but are you going to be able to accept it if your heart is so broken that all you need them to do is put back the pieces? Then you're going to be using them as utility. You can't walk into your next like that. So if your heart has been broken by parents or people or spaces or jobs or bosses or whatever it is, you have to put those pieces back together and say, yes, that happened in my past, but it is not going to happen into my next, because I have created a collaborative effort with my brain to listen to my intuition, to put the pieces of my heart back together, and to walk into my next knowing that I can love whatever this is. I can be in love with my new space, places, and people, but that it doesn't have to break me again, because I'm going to listen to what my brain tells me is the right thing to do, and I'm going to do it this time. Because in 2024, ain't nobody got time for doing that same stuff that we've always done. We don't want to be brokenhearted anymore. We don't want to be hard people anymore. We want to be able to walk into our soft woman, soft man era and be able to have feelings and be able to be who we are, but to trust our intuition and our brains enough to know when that's not it for us. Don't harden yourself because someone else didn't do the right thing. Listen to your brain more so your intuition tells you to not get into those spaces again. This is not a callus. We're not building a callus over top of a wound so that we can continue to withstand and sustain the level of hurt and pain that we've endured. No. We're going to let our skin be soft and walk into spaces that only give it the ability to stay that way. And then the last part of this is your soul. If you've given up on God and all things Him, I understand that church hurt and people hurt and spiritual hurt all can exist. But I can tell you this, that your soul has to find alignment. Your soul has to know, why am I here? Whose am I? And what path am I walking on? And until it does, you're going to be all discombobulated. You're not going to really understand why you're here, what your life's purpose is, and how you can even walk in your next, because you're not going to know what that is. It wasn't until I truly sat with, who are you and what are the gifts that have been given to you? And are you willing to sift through what's in your life when you take inventory? Get rid of the things that don't align with your true inner being. Get rid of the spaces and places and people that don't align with your true inner being, and actually allow your steps to be guided to the purpose that is being fulfilled for you. Because it's already happened, it's already written. You just have to be willing to let go of the things that are restraining you, constraining you, and holding you here, and say, you know what? I want next more than I want to be held in the bondage of the things that I've experienced in the past. So let me sit in my present and deal with my mind, my heart, and my soul in a way that allows for them to be open for what's coming to the next phases of my life. Because I can tell you, when you do that, fear can't fit in there. Shame can't fit in there. Blame can't fit in there, because you're willing to do whatever it takes to get you to the next phase of your life. So when you're taking inventory this year, 2023, and you're telling yourself, I want something different, realize that taking that internal inventory is going to take you to the place where something different is going to happen, because you're going to change and you're going to move, and so is your life. So I hope that for you, and I encourage you to really listen to all of the videos and the content that I put out this week, because taking inventory is a huge part of being able to walk into your next and fulfill the purpose that your life has already had planned and is just waiting for you to walk the path. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to look me up on all social media sites, share with a friend, subscribe to the pages, write reviews. I love to hear from you guys. If you want to work with me directly, send me a DM on one of those places. If you haven't already, purchase your copy of Poems to Heal the Dead Things for yourself or someone else who's going through a healing journey and needs some content, some art, some poetry, as well as some pages to journal their thoughts in. This is on Amazon. The link will be attached. And Wednesday, I put out my blog, so if you haven't already, go to my website and go ahead and check that out there. And if you're someone who wants to book me for a speaking engagement, all of that info is there as well. Would love to come speak at your event to speak purpose and passion into the people who are in your audience. So thank you again for tuning in. I appreciate you all, and I will see you next week.